Hello, everyone. Welcome to another segment of our class. My name is Ray Culture. Today, we're going to be drafting the basic sleeve. We're going to draft the long sleeve and the short sleeve. Firstly, we're going to draft down the long sleeve. The measurement for the long sleeve is sleeve length 22, armhole round 18, wrist round is 10 inches. Firstly, we're going to put down our guideline. Then we're going to also do same other side. For the side, I'm going to make it a little bit wider because I'm going to also use it for our seam allowance. So I'm just going to make it 1 inch wider. Having done that, I'm going to put down the full length of the sleeve, which is 22 inches. Then I'm also going to add half an inch, which will make it 22.5 inches. I'm going to tell us the reason for the half inch as we further ahead. So I'm going to rule out. Having done that, I'm going to take down the cap height. For female body type, their cap height varies. Sometimes I use 3.5 inches, sometimes I use 4 inches, depending on. Then I add half an inch for ease. For this, I'm going to be using 3.5 inches, then half an inch for ease. Then that half inch that we added to the full length, I'm going to add it to it, which is going to make it 4.5 inches. That's going to be for our sewing allowance. So I'm going to make it 4.5 inches. Then I'm going to rule. You can also use 3 inches, depend on the body type, like I said earlier. Then you add half an inch for the ease. Okay, having done that, I'm going to put down the armhole circumference, which is 18. So I'm going to mark 18 here. On the depth of the cap height, I'm going to mark 18 here. So I'm going to take it all down. I'm going to give it a straight rule. Having done that, I'm going to put down the midpoint. The midpoint, the 2 divided by 18 is 9. So we're going to mark down 9 as the midpoint. So we're going to mark it here. And we're going to mark it here also. Then we'll give it a straight rule. Having done that, we're going to take the wrist measurement, which is 10 inches. So we're going to start taking measurement from the midpoint. We're going to put down 5 here, then 5 here, which is 10 inches. Then we're going to connect it to the armhole point. We're also going to do same here. Having done that, we're going to make a triangle arc at the cap height to the armhole line. We're going to do same at the other side. Now we're going to divide this very line by 4. We're going to take the measurement we're having is 10 inches. We're going to divide it by 4. 4 divided by 10 will give us 2.5. We'll mark 2.5 here, 2.5 here, 2.5 here. Same at the other side. This is a standard measurement for sleeve. 2.5 here, here, and here. Now we're going to use the standard number. We're going to, from this first point, we're going to take 2 over 8, which is 1 over 4, up from the line. Here is 1 over 4. Then on the third line, we're going to take in 1 over 8. Sometimes I do half an inch, and for the first line I do half an inch and 3/4 inch, depending on what I want to achieve. But I don't take it up to 1 inch because it's going to bulge out. It's not going to be balanced on the dress, whatever you're sewing, so it's going to bulge out. So I'm very careful when it comes to the armhole of the sleeve. Okay, this is 1 over 8. Also going to apply it to this side also. Then we're going to connect. You connect with your French curve ruler. You make sure they all meet. This is for the female measurement. The male measurement is quite different. Okay. Because it has to be very balanced on whatever you're making on the bodies. So you have to be very careful when taking this sleeve measurement. You have to follow the rule of the armhole. Now we are almost done. Though we are done with the draft of the sleeve, we're going to insert our sewing seam allowance. I like to add 1 inch. You can decide to add half an inch, 1.5 inches, depending on what you want to achieve. So I do add 1 inch for sewing seam allowance. You know, we already had half an inch sewing seam allowance at the cap height. That was what we added to the full measurement. You know, the full length of the sleeve is 22, so we added half an inch to make it 22.5. So this is it. To confirm it, you can see 22.5 inches. So we already added the sewing seam allowance, which is half an inch. Now we're going to rule out. We're also going to do same here. Then we'll come to the hemline. You can make it half an inch. You can make it 1 inch, but I like to add 1 inch because I'm not adding cuff. It's only when you're adding cuff you now have to minus the cuff length from the sleeve length. Okay, for example, you're having a cuff to your sleeve. You have to minus your cuff from the sleeve length. If the sleeve is 22 inches, you minus 2.5 inches from the sleeve. So the remaining would be 19.5 inches. So whatever you have for the cuff, after adding the cuff to the sleeve, you're going to have your complete sleeve measurement length. So we're going to connect. Let me extend the line. Our sleeve is ready. You can notch, can decide to notch where the armhole intake here. You can decide to notch. You can make it front sleeve. Then you can make this side the back. For the back, you notch in 2. For the front, you just give it 1 notch. So you can differentiate when you are placing it on your body. So we are good to cut. You can see we have our full sleeve ready. Now we're going to drive the short sleeve. The full measurement of the sleeve is 10 inches. The armhole round is 18. The arm round is 12. Firstly, we're going to put down the guideline. We are just going to draft the full sleeve, okay? The full sleeve. Then I'm also going to put down guideline on the side, but I'm going to make it 1 inch wider. 1 inch wider. It's also going to serve as my seam allowance. Okay, I'm going to put down the full length of the sleeve, which is 10 inches. I'm going to add half an inch to make it 10.5 inches. 10.5. 10.5. I'm going to give it a rule. I'm going to mark the armhole measurements, the armhole circumference, which is 18. I'm also going to take it down. I'm going to rule out. I'm going to put down the cap height, which is 3.5 inches. I'm going to add half an inch ease. Then for the sewing allowance, which is half inch, that already added to the full length of the sleeve, is going to make it 4.5 inches. So I'm going to mark down 4.5 inches. Then I'm going to rule out. For this, you're not adding any sewing seam allowance again on your fabric. You've already added it on the pattern paper. That's why I like to add all my sewing allowance on my pattern paper, because some of the time I do forget and you wouldn't know what will happen. So I'm going to mark the midpoint. We have 18 inches, so I'm going to mark midpoint, which is 9 inches. I'm going to take it down. I'm going to rule out. I've done that. We're going to take down the arm round, not the armhole round. Okay, it's different. The armhole circumference is different. The arm round is different. Okay, so the arm round is 12. We're going to start from the midpoint. We're going to mark 6 here. Then we're going to mark 6 here. Then we're going to connect it to the armhole line. Now we're going to make an arc from the cap height to the armhole line, like we did on the long sleeve. The reason why you cannot use the long sleeve to draft out your short sleeve is because of the folding allowance. As we further ahead, you will get to understand. Now we're going to divide this line by 4. We have 10 inches. We're going to divide it by 4. 4 divided by 10 will give us 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches. We're going to do the same thing here. Then we're going to take our standard measurement, 1/4, which is 1/4 inch upward. Like I said, you can make it 1/2 inch or 3/4 inches, but make sure it's not more than 3/4 inches so that it doesn't bulge out, so that your sleeve and your armhole will correspond. Okay, here it's going to be 1/8 inches, 1/8 inch rather. Now we are going to connect with our French curve ruler. I hope we're understanding. It's actually not difficult, okay? It's not difficult. Okay, now we have our sleeve. What next we're going to do, we're going to put on our sewing seam allowance. I'm going to use 1 inch here. I'm also going to use 1 inch at the other side. Then I'm going to rule out. I'm going to extend the line. Also going to extend this line. Let me extend this. Okay, now the reason for the line extension is because of our folding allowance. For the short sleeve, I like to add 2 inches folding allowance. Sometimes I use 2.5, sometimes I use 3 inches, sometimes I use 4, depending on the kind of sleeve that you want to make. Okay, depending on the design. So I'm using 2 inches here, then 2 inches here. I'm going to connect. You can see I'm extending the line. The reason for extending the line is this. Now for short sleeve, for you not to get a shortage when you fold it, you have to add 2 inches. I like to add 2 inches or 2.5 inches. Even if there is excesses, after folding I can trim off. So it's better that way, you stay on the safe side. So I'm going to add 2 inches here, then 2 inches here. I'm also going to give it a triangle arc. Now we have our short sleeve ready to cut. we have our short sleeve. Now you see the reason why I said we should extend this folding allowance. So when you fold it to when you are fitting your dress or your sleeve to your bodice, this is what you will get. So you don't have to have a shortage of your folding allowance. You see, it aligns with the body of the sleeve. You can see it aligns with the body of the sleeve. That's why we cannot use the long sleeve pattern to draft the short sleeve, because of the folding allowance. You can see, if you want to do a turn up of your sleeve, you can still see how it aligns with the body of the sleeve. So this is all for our short sleeve. For some of us who doesn't like to waste our fabric or our pattern paper, okay, I'm going to show us a very easy trick for us to draft our sleeve. You can use it for your long sleeve. You can also use it for your short sleeve. Here we're going to be drafting the short sleeve, okay? If you want to draft on your fabric, you just have to place your fabric on fold like so. You just have to place it on fold. You can also draft it on your paper, and you can also place it on fold, but most of the time I don't place my pattern paper on fold. I just use one side of the pattern paper. But here I just want to place it on fold so that we'll understand it. Now we're going to we're going to draw our guideline. We'll draw a guideline. Even when you're marking on your fabric, make sure you have a guideline so that your sleeve will be straight when fixing it on the bodice. So we don't need to put any guideline because we already putting our paper on fold or our fabric on fold, so we don't need any guideline at the side. What we need to do now is just to put down the measurement. The sleeve measurement is 10 inches. I'm going to add half an inch for the cap sewing seam allowance. So we're going to have 10.5 inches. 10.5 inches. Then we're going to connect it. Having done that, we're going to put down the cap height. The cap height is 3.5, half an inch for the ease, then half an inch for sewing our seam allowance. Okay, we'll make it 4.5 inches. So we're going to rule out. Now we're going to put down the measurement of the armhole circumference. We have 18 inches. So we're going to divide it by 2, which should be 9.5 inches. So we're going to mark 9.5 inches. We're going to take it down. We're also going to mark it at the cap line. We're going to connect. Having done that, we're going to put down the arm round, which is 12 divided by 2 will give us 6 inches. Then we're going to connect it to the armhole line. You can also call it the sky line. Then we're going to make the trick here. So we're going to divide this armhole line by 3. 3 divided by 9 will give us 3, so we're going to divide it by 3. We're also going to divide it on the cap line. Then we are going to connect. This trick is very easy. Now what we're going to do, we still have to put the triangle arc line. Okay, the next thing we're to do from this point, that's the cap point, we're going to put 1 inch here. Then for this line, we're going to take up 1 inch too. From this angle, we'll take up 1 inch. Okay, now we're just going to connect. We make sure that they match, they meet each other. Those points, the cap height, those points, and those points, they meet. You see, we already have our sleeve without those many measurements. If we cannot remember those standard measurements, this is the easiest way to draft out our sleeve. Now the next thing we'll do is just to add our sewing seam allowance and our folding allowance. Like I said, you can decide to add 1 inch or 1.5 inches or 2 inches seam allowance to the side of the sleeve, depending on what you want to achieve. I'm going to rule out. Then I'm going to add 2 inches folding allowance. You can decide to add more. Then I'm going to connect. I'm going to extend the line. And here I'm going to add 2 inches to make an arc. We have our sleeve. We have our sleeve ready. So it's time for us to cut. Now you see we have a sleeve ready. So when you fold, you just have to fold. So you see, the easiest way to draft the sleeve without those many measurements. So thank you. See you in our next class. Please click on the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. God bless you.